them
ECS reduced for launch.
give their final go.
25 seconds.
Status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Mars 2020.
There we go. We're ready to go liftoff this morning, Joshua. Eight, seven, 6, 5, 4. Engine ignition. 2, 1, 0.
Release.
And liftoff. As the countdown to Mars continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation of robotic explorers to the Red Planet.
And Atlas TU has gone to closed loop control. Coming up on 30 seconds into flight, the RD-180 is throttling down as expected. Engine response looks good. And Mach 1, Atlas 5 is now supersonic. And passing 45 seconds into flight, vehicle is now passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. And passing 1 minute into flight, the RD-180 is throttling back up as expected. Engine response looks good. At this time in flight, the SRB chamber pressures remain nominal. The RD-180 pump speed and fuel injector pressures are responding well to demands on the engine. Standing by for SRB burnout shortly. And we have burnout on all 4 SRBs. Burnout pressure signatures look good. Standing by for SRB jettison shortly. And we have a good indication of SRB jettison of all 4 SRBs. And the vehicle has gone to closed loop guidance. Vehicle body rates are responding nominally at this time. And coming up on 2.5 minutes into flight, the RD-180 is throttled down slightly as expected. Engine response continues to look good. At this time, the vehicle is 50 miles in altitude, 85 miles downrange, traveling at 6,000 miles per hour. And the Centaur reaction control system is now pressurizing to flight levels. And just past 3 minutes into flight, the RD-180 is now throttling to maintain a constant 2.5 G acceleration limit for payload fairing jettison. Engine response and vehicle acceleration look good. And we have good indication of payload fairing jettison and Centaur forward load reactor deck jettison. And the RD-180 is throttling back up to attain a 4.6 G acceleration. Engine response continues to look good. And Centaur has begun the boost phase chill down sequence to thermally condition the RL-10 for operation. Standing by for BECO shortly.
BECO's the call for booster engine.
And we have BECO, booster engine cutoff, standing by for stage separation. And we have good indication of Atlas Centaur separation.
So there you're seeing live footage.
And we
from
have
the
Mach
rocket.
1. RL-10 operating parameters look good. Chamber pressures are stable. This will be the first of 2 burns for today's mission. This first burn will be approximately 7 minutes in length.
So, Mick, that's pretty exceptional footage there. That's live video. We will see that switch over shortly into an animation that kind of helps let us know what's happening with the rocket. But right there, a beautiful liftoff. Fun to feel that rumble in the building here as we proceed towards orbit and then towards Mars destination.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great watching an on-time liftoff of the Atlas V with that little over 2 million pounds of thrust. Cleared the tower in roughly 5 seconds. Josh, you and I worked the InSight mission, and if you recall, that mission on the West Coast took about 17 seconds to get past tower. So with those 4 solids today, this thing really got out of here and on its way. It's, as we hear from Jesse, everything's looking nominal, and all vehicle parameters are within the design limits, and we're getting ready to come up on a main engine start for that first burn that Jesse was talking about.
Yeah, so recapping this countdown to Mars, the stations began to be filled up this morning just after midnight. Preparations, fuelings, powering up, all the way through that liftoff that happened, I think, Mick, it wasn't precisely on time. I think you said it was like 10 milliseconds early. So it's pretty much dead on.
Yeah, dead on. This team does a great job. As I said, they're very focused, very disciplined. As Tori also said, courageous. They have done a lot of work to get us to this point today through this pandemic, changed how they did some of their work, made adjustments as needed, a lot of cleaning, a lot of things, a lot of wearing their face masks, doing all kinds of things. And so this is an exciting time, not only for the JPL team in Mars 2020, but everybody that's worked this mission, and for the country and the agency. So this is exciting to see. We still have a long way to go, Joshua, before spacecraft separation.
Yeah, we had a really quiet countdown today, which is phenomenal, that we got off the ground on time. And we are proceeding now that we are in the middle of the first burn. It's tough to make out, but that engine is lit and it's firing. So we are in motion. There you go. There's that animation we talked about.
The telemetry there as we switch to a TDRS compatible data format.
TDRS.
Overall telemetry quality is very good.
The space tracking system. So there you go. This is not an actual video, but this is an animation that's driven by real data. So although we're not actually seeing the engine on screen right now, we can see that the engine is lit, and that is driven by the data that says that the engine is truly lit and we're in this burn.
Yeah, the launch vehicle continues to send telemetry to the launch team via the TDRS network, as you mentioned, and that allows them to continue to watch what's going on and make sure all their sequence of events meet their timeline. We continue on a nominal flight this morning. This first burn, as we heard earlier, will be about 6 minutes. This will get us into that park orbit around Earth, allow us to get on our way, and then get into that approximately 30-minute coast period that we're going to have.
8 minutes into flight, beginning to see the Centaur PU system balance out mass errors, seeing very stable body rates in the Centaur.
So we've mentioned 5 teams at play, and although if you were watching, hopefully you got a chance to see this in person, if not on camera, it's easy to kind of say, oh, it's over, like job done, but all 5 of these teams still very much engaged, still very much focused, because there's a lot of work ahead as we proceed through this first burn, and then a coast phase, like you mentioned, Mick, and then a second burn, and then spacecraft separation and the acquisition of signal from Mars 2020. So a lot more coming up here. Mick, I know for Launch Services Program, you guys manage the launch. So what does that mean? I mean, this is you guys' work in action right now.
By the way, that's the 5th team that we didn't get to mention. We talked about JPL, we talked about DOE, we talked about United States Space Force, and United Launch Alliance. LSP, we are like the brokers to select this launch vehicle and help with manage this mission. So we get our spacecraft customer, the JPL folks, they come to us. They have some certain requirements that they need for this mission. The Launch Services Program made up of engineers and flight analysis folks, and they look at everything, they help define those requirements, and then we go out and procure a vehicle from a commercial partner. In this case, it was the Atlas 541 for the Mars 2020 mission that was needed for performance, right? You and I have talked over the last several days, Josh, one of the things that was important for us to look at was that performance, to be able to get Mars 2020 onto that transfer orbit into solar orbit to intercept Mars in 7 months. It's kind of analogous to a football game, right? With a quarterback trying to throw a pass downfield. You need a quarterback with a lot of performance who can get that ball down there where it needs to be, so the receiver can intercept that. In our case, 7 months later.
There you go. Yeah, it's the longest football pass ever. The Earth is the quarterback. The Atlas is the quarterback's arm. Perseverance is the football, and Mars is the receiver.
That's exactly right.
And what we also talked about is that technically, you could launch to Mars at any time if you had a rocket that was powerful enough. But this is the launch period every 26 months or so, as we've talked about, that makes the most sense because you require the least amount of energy to get to Mars, because it takes a lot to get there. Obviously, like the Atlas 541 is a workhorse.
Yeah, as Tori said, it's their Dominator. Right?
There you go.
I love that name for the Atlas 541. But we heard Jim Bridenstine, our NASA administrator, tell us that if we didn't make this launch period, we would be down for roughly 26 months.
It's
right?
tough.
So the period started July 17th and goes to August 15th. Today, July 30th, was one of those launch opportunities that we had. We had a 2-hour window, and within that window, we had several opportunities.
25, actually.
Yeah.
25 opportunities.
And we launched at the beginning of the window on our first opportunity to get Mars 2020 going on its way. And that, that sounds like a lot, and it is. The flight analysis group, both at JPL, LSP, and ULA, did a lot of work to pick out those target sets and figure out where we needed to be. So they've done a great job, and we'll see how this mission continues.
So, Mick, tell us about the 2 burns required here, and we're actually coming up on the end of the first one. Ultimately, a lot of people probably, and myself included at some point, just like, why wouldn't you just keep firing the engines? Just fire all the way through and get to Mars in one shot.
So the first burn gets us into that park orbit we talked about. We've lifted off, we've left Earth, we've got into a park orbit around Earth right now. And while we're in that park orbit, we will perform some maneuvers to kind of roll Mars Perseverance and the Centaur and coast during that time, basically setting itself up looking at the sun and away from the sun to control the thermal environments that are on Mars 2020 during this coast period. That coast period will allow us to coast around into the position that we need so that we can have that second firing to get the velocity needed to head off into Mars.
Yes, and we will be back for that second burn in just under 30 minutes now. But for now, there's more to learn about this mission and all the amazing science that's involved. Daryl, back to you.